at night, I was almost in tears trying to get out of bed to go to the bathroom. And as an active guy and stuff like that, I thought this was the rest of my life. And I accepted that. I'm like, okay, I'm in my mid 50s now, but I guess it was early 50s. I was like, maybe this is what happens. And I was miserable about it. And oh my, I could barely get up. And then in the morning, I had to use the rail to go down the stairs, or I used to run up and down the stairs. And I just started to accept that.
Today, we have a very special guest, Michael Kaufman. He is the author of the book, Doing Good and Doing Well. And today, we're going to get into some very important topics. Michael, welcome to the Functional Nurse Practitioner podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. And I think what you're doing is fantastic for people, so that I get to be a voice of one of your voices. I'm very happy.
Well, thank you. That means so much to me. And I equally am very glad to get to know you and for the listeners to hear from you. I would actually love for you to share with everyone a little bit about you. Who is Michael Kaufman and why should we listen to you?
Okay, well, that's pretty, yeah. So I'm a guy that really has just loved what he's done. So first and foremost, I feel just really lucky to be able to wake up and love what I do. And I know not everybody can say that. I know when I was a kid, I probably wanted to be the quarterback for the Jets, or be in the band Kiss or something like that. I didn't have the football talent to be on the Jets. I don't have the musical ability to be in Kiss. So what else could I do was helping people. But with that being said, I started as an accountant. I got my degree there at Rutgers. And right before I was supposed to start at this company called Ernst & Young, they were one of the big five or big six, whatever you called it then, accounting firms. I just wasn't really excited or passionate about it. And I was working at the Center for Cognitive Rehabilitation in New Brunswick, people with head injuries. And I loved what I did. And my boss there had something called an MSW, Master's in Social Work. And I was like, wow, if money was not an option, what I would do is be a social worker. But since I already did accounting and that seemed like a smart thing to do, I was going to go that route, and I completely changed, went for my master's in social work, the greatest decision I ever made. I did residence life at Rutgers, so that helped to pay for my master's. And then I've taken off since then, working with kids and families predominantly. And then I found this company, at the time, a real small company, to run a school for students with special needs. And just grew from there, from a director in training to end up being the CEO of the company. And we grew it to a $100 million business and sold that to private equity. And now I've been out on my own, started a few businesses there. And also throughout the years when I was working on my doctorate, was able to teach at Rutgers Graduate School, which I loved. So what led me to my book today is my passion and love for teaching graduate students, getting in front of people, sharing lessons. And then also leading the company. And when I would lead the company, I would do leadership lessons for all of our leaders. And I would try to bring in movies, music, sports, entertainment, which I do in the book, and try to get really high level business concepts down to the helping professionals, because they were a little bit scared of the business side of what we were doing. They totally got how to help, but they were scared to death. Oh my God, a profit and loss statement. I'm scared to death of this. Or how do I manage all this money that's coming in and not make a mistake? So I wanted to try to say, you got the stuff that's really important. We can teach you the business side. So it's really a culmination of all that.
Well, I love that. And as a small business owner, that definitely resonates me with the profit and loss. That's very scary to look at. And it resonates with me because you're talking about New Jersey.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
from New York, so I spent a lot of time in New Jersey, Martinsville, South Brunswick. My dad used to live in South Brunswick. So yeah, I heard Rutgers. I was like, yes, speaking my
Yeah.
language.
Yeah, us New Jersey, New York people, we have to stick together. A lot of people around the
Yes.
country think we're bold and we're brash. And we can be bold and brash, but also still really nice and fun. So we
Oh,
do bring those together, right?
I absolutely agree with that. Back when I worked in the hospital on the floor, this was many years ago, it was rubbing people the wrong way. Like, well, first of all, when I talked, sometimes I would do this.
We use our hands.
No, like do this, like hurry up, get your point out. I don't have all day. Like
Right.
I didn't know, but I do. I absolutely talk with my hands. But I heard, the word brass or short. And actually my husband tells me I don't have a lot of small talk in anything. He's like, you just send texts with exactly what you want to say. There's no good morning, there's no this. I'm like, that's not me.
Yeah. Well, again, that's what I love by watching some of your podcasts. I love that you're just real, and your husband's hit the nail on the head with you. And the cool thing about you is you love to look at the root causes. So a lot of times you go see a nurse or a doctor, they'll just prescribe you something. And I think my book is actually a lot of what you say is each person is individual. Right? I need to look at their triggers, their causes, their antecedents. What was there? Let me know your whole story. Just because you may have a rash, that may not be the same reason why somebody else does. Maybe yours is stress related, and you try to get to the bottom of what each person's going through. And a great leader does exactly the same thing. You can't lead everybody the same way. Everyone is so different. I'm a more sensitive type of guy. So if you hit me in the, if once I know you and I know you have my back, then you can say anything to me. But at
Yeah.
first, I need to be handheld a little bit and treated really nicely. So you got to get to know each person. And I think that's, if I got you right from, reading some of the things that you do and watching, is you take every person and their needs individually. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a vitally important part of any kind of communication, care, health, wellness, just life in general. And I hate to say, like, not that it's necessarily missing in conventional healthcare. There's just no time.
Right.
There's not the time for that. And in a lot of ways, sometimes the training isn't there either because it's more about the disease itself and the
Mhm.
treatment versus how disease develops. So we could talk all day about that,
All
but
day about
I have
that.
a
Yeah.
lot. I have a lot of questions for you. I
Sure,
did
sure.
want to highlight a couple of sections of your book: "Doing Good and Doing Well: Inspiring Health Professionals to Become Leaders in Their Organizations." I'm an avid reader. I'm always looking for inspiration. The first passage I want to talk about starts with, "If you want to lead, learn how to follow." I
Yeah.
love this. It's so very true. One of my key takeaways is the value of leveraging the strength of those around you. I'd
Mhm.
love for you to speak a bit about your thoughts surrounding this topic.
Yeah, I just feel a leader, it's so when you become a leader, you get caught up in what your results are. There's this line that says what gets measured gets done. So if somebody over you is like, okay, I need to see your profitability, I need to see this or that, you can get so focused on that and forget that it's the people that make the organization. It isn't the numbers. The people create the numbers that make the organization. And learning how to follow that, that great song by Aerosmith, dream on. You got to lose to know how to win, and you have to learn how to be somebody that you're going to lead to do it. So I always think of when I'm leading somebody is how did I want to be treated in that situation? And I think about this too is if my grandma was still alive and she was looking at me in a room and I'm leading someone and something frustrating is going on, would I be embarrassed if she saw how I talk to somebody? Or would she be, wow, that you talk to that person with respect? You should always be like somebody that you care about is in the room looking at you and saying that. So take a person's needs into account. Remember what it was like to roll up your sleeves and do all the work. The people that you lead are the ones doing the hard work. If you are a great leader, you are really doing servant leadership. You are there to serve those working for you. Those people aren't there to serve you. They're providing a really important array of skills that make your business great. And one of the greatest gifts that my former mentor gave me, she owned the business that I ended up running, is she believed in me before I believed in me. And she told me that. She would say this to me, and I didn't realize what a gift it was. Mike, you're better at that than I am. And I looked at her like, holy moly, you started this business? And it was sincere. At first, I just thought she was just saying that, and she meant it. And a lot of times when people lead, they're intimidated by someone they see coming up through the ranks that could be better than them and try to hold them down and don't want them to rise. But you have to realize if you see somebody that you're leading that could be better than you, A, they're going to make the organization better, they're going to make you look better. And also, what is a greater gift than to watch someone rise from someone who is in a lower position, not making as much money, and grow to be like the chief operating officer of your business? Like, it's an incredible thing. So I think I take that so seriously, and just to always remember what it was like, that journey. Again, that Miley Cyrus song, The Climb. The climb is way more fun than getting to the top. So, remember that and treat everyone as they're climbing up the ladder, how you felt too, and understand it. That there's struggles with that, and you sometimes don't feel as believed in or valued. and that'll make people leave. And especially in this climate where the employees rule the market in the health professions, we're
Mhm.
dying to find people. So if we don't treat them well, they're going to go somewhere else.
That is absolutely right. And I'll tell you this, when you have a poor leadership, that really sticks out.
Oh yeah.
Like I've had, unfortunately, the experience of working under somebody and the leadership was just, it was lacking, and it was a really difficult, it was really difficult to work there and to want to do my best when there wasn't that motivation. The motivation was different,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
Yeah, and when you're led by somebody that it takes somebody who is potentially workaholic because they love it and so passionate, and it'll just drain it like a balloon. It's a pin in a balloon. It just will pop your spirit, and then you become this negative version of yourself that you never thought you were or ever thought you could be. And it just it's awful. And if you're a great leader, you'll see that in your people. You'll see when they're sitting around the table, if they're looking at their phone, looking up in the air. What I try to do in a good leader is it says, what have I done to create this? Instead of getting so mad, oh, I did a staff meeting, someone pulled out their phone. How could they do this? That's a way to look at it. My thought is, what am I doing to bore them that they want their phone out and they don't want to pay attention? So as a
I
leader,
love that.
there's a book called Leadership and Self Deception by Patrick Lencioni. I love it. And what he says is leaders have to look at what they're doing to every problem with somebody you're leading. At first, look at you. If it keeps happening and happening, it could be them. It probably is. But for the first few times, look at yourself and what you could do better to get the most out of that person. Because
Are you currently suffering with Hashimoto's? Have you been told there is nothing you can do? Are you tired of the never ending fatigue? Are you ready to overcome the debilitating brain fog, anxiety, joint pain? I created a masterclass where we dive into the underlying root causes of Hashimoto's so we can get you on a different pathway. One that leads to not only improving your symptoms, but transforming your health. For now, I'm offering this masterclass for free because I know how it feels to keep searching for answers and coming up empty handed. If you'd like to gain instant access to this masterclass, comment down below masterclass and I will send you the link. Now, back to today's episode.
because if you don't, again, like you said, somebody like you with all the skill and ability that you have, that person probably chased you away, and what a loss to them.
Yeah, I should have left sooner than I did, because it impacted my health, because I took it so personally, but it wasn't just against me. It was just the lack of, I don't know where she was in her life, or her own inner demons or something, but it greatly impacted everybody around her. And yeah, so
Oh, I love
take
you just said,
note.
yeah, I love you just said inner demon. So I love doing exercise with people. This is a social worker in me. So I would do something is find your demons. I actually did a whole presentation on that, is know what your demons are, because they will come back to haunt you in leadership. So for mine, my demons were, I've mentioned this before about being sensitive. I remember my dad was like sort of tough, and when I was growing up, and sometimes say you can't do this, or you're not that smart, or whatever he may say. So my demon was always hearing the negative in what somebody said, or maybe taking it too personally when I started. If I couldn't conquer that, I'm not gonna be able to lead people, because when you're a leader, you have to hear the negative and embrace it, and grow from it. If I'm someone who's like, if I'm going back to, oh my God, this is my dad again telling me that I'm screwing up, I'm going to get mad at you. So you got to control those demons before you're a leader and understand what they are. We all have them, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's that the only thing that's wrong with it is if you don't realize it.
Exactly. Like, definitely, I love that inner demon exercise. That's so important, and to really look inward, to
Yeah.
to to look at, why do I feel this way? Where am I coming from? And really, I feel like they're skills, right? Those are
Yes.
achievable, attainable skills for somebody to learn, and you can use those everywhere, like in relationships. Like, your spouse is a little, they're ignoring you, or a little short with you, and thinking, you know, wonder what they're going through right now for that, or am I coming across a certain way? It adds a lot more perspective, because like you, with feeling like maybe I'm not good enough, I come from like a long history of having like a lack of confidence, even though I don't think a lot of people would have known that about me because I
Right.
smiled all the time. But I had such like inner turmoil, just based on all the things, the dynamics in my family and all of
Hmm.
the trauma that was going on for my sister and I. But like looking at how am I handling a situation, and especially when we're dealing with other people,
Right.
when in any capacity. So that means every single person in the world this matters for,
Hmm.
right? But if you're in the role of a healthcare professional, or a wellness expert, or anything like that, then others are really looking to you as a leader, right? And
Absolutely.
it matters what we bring to the table. Like in functional medicine, the first part of anything is gathering. So it's not just gathering your information about the patient or the client. Like in regular conventional healthcare, you grab the chart outside the door, you look at it for a second, you walk in the room already knowing what you're going to give them, without
Right.
even like knowing the person, or like thinking. um, it sounds terrible, but unfortunately, like that's you got 7 minutes, hurry up. But the first part in functional medicine is gathering yourself, right? Gathering oneself. Have you taken some deep breaths before you go in? Are you
Yeah.
jumping from one thing to the next? And it's easy to do where we're thinking about a problem we have or something else, and it's taking our focus, but this individual is looking to us for some type of guidance. So whether that's, your client or patient, or your team,
Right.
I feel like it's the same, that we need to look inwardly, right?
Yeah.
I had another passage that I wanted to highlight.
Oh, sure.
And when people are resistant to change, this truly resonates with me as a
Yeah.
nurse practitioner. Like I mentioned, in the health and wellness space, behavior change is key. It's
Hmm.
vitally important to understand behavior and what is called like change talk versus sustain talk.
Yeah.
Change talk means the individual is ready for change and their words and actions reflect this, versus sustain talk, where the person is speaking and behaving with the mindset of continuing the behavior they stated they want to change. Michael, I'd love for you to expand on this topic, as there's so many of us out there wanting
Yeah.
change and
Right.
possibly frustrated, feeling like it's just out of reach.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. And everybody is scared of change. Even if you think you embrace change, you're still scared of it because it's something, it's the unknown. And how many things would all of us have done in this world if fear didn't stop us? Fear has stopped so many of us from looking at our dreams. And we were like, I want to do this, but I don't have enough education to do it. I want to do this, but I'm not physically fit enough to go climb a mountain. And we don't do things, and we let that fear get in the way, and we stop us. One thing I did, and I have done, is there's a great book called Who Moved My Cheese. It's the simplest book about mice and cheese and change, and how nobody wants change. Everyone resists it. It's a really simple book, but it's a great leadership book. And I have the whole leadership team read it, and we all just discuss change. Because what happens is, if an organization grows, and you have to grow or the organization will go nowhere. So if you don't grow and change, you're going to go under. And there's something I learned, that the heroes of the past aren't always your heroes of the future in an organization. That's very sad. So if you were in a business, and some of the folks that got you to point B, you started at A, and you want to go to C, D, and E, they love point B, because it's me as a leader and three of them. And they're so important. And you're like, oh God, we need to bring in 20 new people. So they were so amazing, but bringing in 20 new people, they don't want it, because they're going to be maybe another face in the crowd, or it's going to change the organization. We're going to grow. We're not going to be as helpful as we used to be. And you have to try to bring those people along. If they're great, you want those people that helped you start the business to move forward with you. If they can't, then you have to try to help them to see that maybe this isn't the right place for them anymore. But I just feel that change, if you make it where it's not even necessarily change, it's called evolution and growth. We've all changed. We all went from little kids to adults. So if you just make it, normalize it, normalize. And again, that's why I think, when we think of nurses and health professionals as you guys, I think we have so much to learn from you all, because if somebody is in a life or death situation, you can handle that, where the rest of us will fall apart. They see blood, they see someone lying there. If you see somebody like that, you're going to be okay, because you know how to deal with that. You don't flip out, you don't freak out, and anything can come your way, and anything has come your way, because that's what you've seen throughout your time. So I think you have to try to throw things at people and bring them into certain situations and train them. You mentioned training before, and the lack thereof of training. And I think training helps to deal with change too. When I train people, I want to try to make sure that we train you not in the new job you're taking, because let's just say I run schools for kids with special needs and I'm training a director to become a director of that school. I don't want to train you in the school that you're going to lead, because you're going to start doing the job. I want to train you in another situation, so you're really listening, you're really seeing everything that you're going to have to go through. So you want to and bring them into everything. I used to use a passport when I was running the one company I was, and on your passport was human resources, to find the CFO's office, and you'd have to go to everyone and get stamped like you went to Italy or Greece. You'd have to sit in their office and learn everything. So when you're thrown into running a school and the CFO calls you, you don't flip out and go, "Oh my God, I didn't know I was going to have to answer to somebody about why my profit fell 3%." No, you already know this person. You sat down with them. They went over everything with you. So I just think making change just a part of everything, and bringing it into people, into workshops. So like, for instance, one of my favorite boss at the one company I was at, she did this thing. It was shocking. We were growing like crazy. And she said, "I want each of you, this is a task. You have to each pick a passion and do it." Somebody picked cooking. I picked doing a radio show, like like Frasier, where you would call in if you had, marital problems or couple problems or any kind of problems. And I ended up I found a radio station. I did it. I was scared to death, but she made us, it was something we had to do. And at the time I was like, this is really cool, but I get what she was doing. If you don't have passions and follow them, you're not going to be as great at work. But she was getting us used to putting ourselves out there, taking you out of your comfort zone.
Well, I love that story, and that passport is really, it's brilliant, because that would definitely be me getting called into, so we'll just say, the principal's office,
Right,
or wherever, the boss's office, and the first thing that would have normally went through my mind is, what did I do?
Yeah.
And my husband says, he asks me, "Why do you have such a guilty conscience?" I'm like, I don't know. Like, I do know. It's because of the things that I've been through
Right.
growing up and throughout my life, but just like recognizing that inner feeling. And I agree, we all know change is hard. People
Yeah.
do not really want change. We like the things to be the same and
Yeah.
routines for the most part, but getting uncomfortable, purposefully uncomfortable for change, can be it could be life changing, is the way that I see it. Because believe it or not, I'm very nervous in situations like what we're doing right now. This makes me very uncomfortable.
And you seem so natural.
Believe it or not, it means something to me, because the message of spreading important information, real conversations, is very important to me. But I'm uncomfortable in this position, and that what is the term that I'm looking? The imposter syndrome, like,
Right.
that goes through my mind sometimes. And I think back to the first podcast that I had somebody on. I almost threw up right beforehand. I was so nervous, and I'm like, why am I so nervous? Because it's different. Because I'm putting myself in a position that feels uncomfortable. And I look at change that way, right? Like, in the beginning and of any change, it's not going to feel necessarily comfortable. I don't think it could.
No.
But what can come out on the other side?
Exactly.
Like, and how can we feel the I'm a really big fan of either using the term like small wins, like, let's get a win, like check a box for I did this, like a goal, or just saying it's success, like celebrating our successes. And definitely I work with individuals every day on the concept of change and really looking at motivation and like the intrinsic motivation for why we're doing something.
Yeah.
And that can help to move somebody past the uncomfortable phase.
Yeah. And what's really great is one thing is that why did you almost throw up? Because you cared. Somebody said that to me when I started teaching graduate school at Rutgers. I was 27. And what I did is I read the book and I took notes and I just read the notes. But like you said, those small wins, I got through my first class. Now, if I'm teaching at Rutgers, I'm, using my hands like we talked about before. I'm walking around the room. You got to get those small wins. And somebody just made me feel great is that feeling of sickness is you probably thought, oh my God, it's like a little bit of a weakness. And the person made me feel like it was a strength because you care so much. And what that care is, you're going to prepare.
I had to interrupt today's video to let you know I have a new ebook, The Ultimate Gluten-Free Guide. This ebook is completely free, packed with so many tips, tricks, and recipes. Link is in the show notes. Check it out. Make sure to grab a copy for yourself. Now, back to today's video.
That care makes you prepare. And then
Yeah.
that's why it probably went well. And even if your first podcast didn't go perfectly, it probably didn't. You did it. You had it in the books. And you got the first one done, which is always the hardest. But it's a great thing to feel sick when you care and want to make a good thing. And then you'll feel less and less sick. The change, it gets better. I was beyond nervous before went on with you today because we want to do well. We don't want to disappoint. Like you were kind enough to say I could come on. So I don't want to disappoint you either. So I think they're all great characteristics of why we do these things. And if you look at it as a positive, then it makes you doesn't let the fear get in the way. Like obviously you were scared to start doing this, but you didn't let fear stop you. And that's the key.
Yeah. I love this conversation and I love how real it is and how, wait a minute, are they both talking about how nervous they were, how nervous they are to come on? And because you don't see that, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It's not exactly the same thing, but along the same lines of like scrolling your Instagram feed and everybody's looks perfect. They have best lives. Like you just seeing wins and they're feeling bad, like looking at all of this and, like how we compare ourselves to other people. I love just putting out like the raw information that no matter how far like somebody looks like they've come now, how many times they've done something, I'm not sure exactly which episode this is, but it's probably 80 something, right?
Yeah.
I lost track. So that's a lot of episodes. I still get nervous, right? Because I care and recognizing that's like you said, that's a positive and it definitely makes a difference when you feel, I'm going to use the word safe enough to express that, let's say to your leader or to your partner or to your friend or a colleague or whoever, and share that and then get something back from them to help. Like, well, wait, that means because you care, like you said, instantly that just put my nervous system at ease.
Yeah. And the
like
thing is
hearing
what
you say that.
Yeah, you said something really important, and we're talking about being leaders. You said the imposter syndrome. All of us fake it until we make it. And that's what I really want to get across to helping professionals who want to become a leader is that you are going to fake it at first until you make it. You are not going to have all the answers. You're going to mess up. The great thing about people like you and I is that we care enough to look inward and get that stomach ache and care enough to say, what did I say wrong to the person? So that's what's going to end up making us, you great and me great. And just really, what's so cool too is how much passion is important. Like I watched your one episode on honey, on the values of eating honey, and I was like, this is so cool. Like at first you were probably like, God, do I do this podcast on the effects of honey? And I was like, I bought some afterwards. I'm going to start putting it in my tea, and you know what I mean. Like so, you bring when you start to share things that are your passions, they can become other people's passions. That's the same thing with leaders. When you love doing it so much, everyone wants to be a leader. I agree with this. Somebody said Mike, I want to be a leader because you make it look so easy. It's not easy. I'm stressed when I'm driving home. I'm grabbing the wheel, but you want to make it look easy to everyone out there because who wants to go to a boss that's holding their head, sitting like this? You want to go to someone who's smiling, laughing. That's an open door policy. What
a wonderful compliment that they gave you. That
Yeah.
saying, making it look easy, like that is a absolute win. That check that box, right?
Yeah.
That because and like inside might be like, I'm so stressed out, or I am I even saying the right thing? Do I know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Do I have the answer? And I definitely want to point out for the listener, I don't believe, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think I don't. I'm very opinionated. I don't think I'm wrong. That we're always going to be. It's going to be possible to make mistakes. Nobody's
Yeah.
perfect, and no matter how the level of success somebody achieves, how long somebody is a leader, there's going to be moments where there's going to be doubt because we're human,
Yeah.
right? And it's what we
Yeah.
do.
I think making mistakes as a leader is so vital because, and the second part of making the mistake is admitting it in front of everybody. I've done this in leadership workshops of 100 people. Say, guys, I made a massive mistake. I thought we should go down path A. We were supposed to go down path B. People love it. And then what they're going to do is the people who work for you will feel like, this guy's saying he makes mistakes. I'm going to tell him when I make mistakes. Is learn from it. One interesting thing to learn from the military is the military after battles, wars, they super analyze every single move they made, and they look for mistakes more than their successes, so they don't make the same mistakes again. So understanding your mistakes is so important because that's how you'll avoid doing them again. Overreacting to something, getting upset, getting mad. I've gone back and apologized to people all the time, and when it's sincere, they love it and say, "Hey, I messed up today. I did that wrong. I made a wrong decision. You actually had the right way to go, and I pushed you a different direction." It's what you have to do, but a mistake and then you don't acknowledge it, then that's the mistake. Is the mistake is not to acknowledge it. The mistake isn't the mistake.
Absolutely. Let's underline, highlight that, underscore it, whatever the word is. That yeah, if not owning up and having the accountability for the mistake is definitely the actual mistake. So I have so many questions for you. This podcast is all about health and wellness, but today we're going to widen the lens. And friends, stay with us. I think you're really going to enjoy where this conversation goes, or at least I think you will. Where I know where it's going to go. With this being a presidential election year, I have a few questions I'm sure the listeners would love for you to speak about. And friends, I promise this will not turn into a political conversation. This is not what the show is about, but I do think that these are some important topics to discuss. Michael, with all of your experience and knowledge, I wanted to get your thoughts on crisis management. With everything that's transpired over the past 4+ years, what can health professionals teach leaders everywhere about crisis management?
Yeah, so it's so important to just understand crisis theory too. Is Lindemann and Kaplan in the 40s came up with crisis theory. It just read take 5 minutes and read a little bit about just crisis intervention, which really talks about an equilibrium that's there that gets disturbed. There's some grief or pain around that. We have to work through the problem and you try to restore the equilibrium. So just understanding that a crisis theory is something went awry. There's people that are going to need to be healed because of that. And Corona or COVID is a great way to look at one of those crises that came out there. And that we need to plan and be proactive, right? I think if we learned anything is that a lot of people were caught flat-footed when COVID happened, for instance. And when kids would say to us, or my kids would say to me, like, "Oh, Dad, when you went through this, what did you do?" I have an answer to almost everything for that, but not COVID. I'm like, I never went through it. I don't have an
Yeah.
answer. So that was comforting to the youth of today to say, okay, you're not going to just make something up, but it also scared them half to death because they're always used to an adult telling them something. And the one great thing that I think health professionals bring to the field is you guys were ahead of the game. I remember I went to Thomas Jefferson University once in Philly, and they had this incredible machine, and they were doing the number one heart surgeons in Philly was meeting with people in South Dakota because they had these cameras and they could zoom in on people and look in their mouths and take their vitals and do all these things. So health professionals were doing Zoom before there was Zoom. They were doing, connecting with people, interacting where you couldn't be face to face. So I think there's a lot to learn just from the health professionals of how to be, again, plan, be proactive. Also realizing that a physical crisis like Corona is also a mental health crisis. So when there's a crisis, there's mental health things that go on with that. You mentioned being at that one job that time and you felt physically sick. So stress and problems can lead to physical problems, but physical problems can lead to mental health. So I think that that us as healthcare professionals, seeing that 360 view, that echogram that we make of everything that can go on, and looking at who your support system are. Do you have people around you? How are you functioning? Is your mental health okay? Are you eating? Are you doing everything that you should do? Um, and I just think that we really need to look at that and how, go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Those original things. Do you have food? Do you have shelter? All these things that health professionals are so adept at. So I just think this whole thing was a wake up call that we were all a little flat footed, everybody across the board. And we were just expecting, and we, just like people who live paycheck to paycheck, God forbid something goes wrong and you lose your job. How are you going to make a payment? Like, I think hopefully those of us who we handle Corona will be like, okay, I got to put some money away if I lose my job. I got to now be proactive across the board in life, not just, think about it once a crisis hits. So I think our whole society has started to really say we have to get on these kinds of things and understand that it's not a crisis that's going, it may happen, a crisis will happen. And it's how are you going to respond to that when it does?
Yeah, very well said. And when all of that went down, I was actually working at the hospital at the time. I thought the world was ending. It was,
Yeah.
it was we've never been through that, right? No one has ever been through that.
No.
And it was like, I saw a lot of chaos, but then working in a hospital setting at the time, having there be still some sense of normalcy. Like I was working in an infusion center for cancer patients predominantly, and people still needed their medication, their treatments, and life goes on. So like you mentioned earlier about nurses and knowing what to do in a crisis. And there's absolutely training with that, but there was no training for what we
No.
experienced as a world. But then, like bringing up Maslow's hierarchy of needs and understanding that what can happen to the psyche, to our like mental like thoughts and emotions from what's going on. So everybody around me, we instantly all moved into, if it was like any other crisis, like if there was like a violence, like somebody had, not that happens very often, thank goodness, but
Right.
somebody has a weapon in the hospital, or there's a fire, or there's a tornado, living here in Indiana, that, everybody we stay calm. So inside we might be panicking, but then we're staying calm and moving. I feel like that's what you were kind of talking about with
Yeah.
nurses, like in a leadership role, like moving people to safety, literally. And there was occasionally, not very often, thank goodness, but individuals coming in that were a little hostile. Like they wanted to get in and you couldn't even get in. You couldn't even walk into the hospital at that point in time. So it was very scary. And I went out there to deal with that individual and, having somebody like screaming at me and just staying calm but putting myself in their shoes. They're not, they don't want to, at least I don't think they wanted to hurt me. They were frustrated. They were terrified. They needed to
Right.
get in the hospital and they weren't allowed in. And so just utilizing the same skills for whatever issue, like just understanding, putting yourself in their shoes, doing like
Yeah.
reflective talk and empathy and things like that, but not really thinking, am I operating in a leadership role? Right? Because I think that there is definitely a disconnect with that especially with nurses, because I was a nurse for a long time before I became a nurse practitioner, and moving into that role was hard. It
Hmm.
was hard because I spent so many years where I don't want to say call the shots, because that is not what a healthcare professional should do or does. That we have suggestions based on guidelines or whatever, but it's the person that is calling the shots. It's that individual with their life and their health. They're in the driver's seat. I tell everybody I work with, they're the captain of this game, right? It is
Right.
not me. I say this all the time. I don't have a magic wand. And interestingly, I used to work with a woman at the hospital. She was a social worker. She was wonderful. And she used to say, let me get my magic wand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, we need help, and leaning on other professionals.
Yeah.
And like you said about leaning on the team and understanding when somebody else, like going back to that passage in your book, when somebody else has profound strength in an area and leaning into that individual, lifting them up, giving them a chance to shine makes everybody shine.
Right. Absolutely. And one thing that I think was good for everyone in our society is to relook at nurses in general, because I think everyone's always seen nurses in a positive way. They're nice, they're kind, but how about how strong they are? And again, you had to make a decision. It was like, what was it, March 12th, 2020, probably March 13th. You didn't have the luxury of staying home for 4 months. You didn't have the luxury of getting to make that decision. And you looking at your husband in the eye say, I'm putting my life on the line and I'm going in. Like that strength. So everyone always saw the compassion of nurses. People started to see the strength. Everyone saw the empathy of nurses. People saw the accountability of nurses too. And so that strong thing came through. And then also, the banging on the pots and pans in New York City when people walk out, and everyone started to see that the health professionals as our superheroes. Like I love Iron Man and the Batman movies, but they're fake. Well, who is real? The real Iron Man was you, like actually dressed in maybe even a hazmat suit the first few days. God knows
Yes.
what you had to wear, because we didn't know what was going on, but you were willing to put your life on the line for a cancer patient. I don't know what's a greater gift to give to someone. And when somebody in your shoes or anybody in the helping professions like, Mike, I can't lead the organization because I know nothing about finance and business and I hate business. I don't want to deal with it. But I'm like, you were able to walk into a hospital a day after Corona. What do you think's harder? Be learning some finances or doing that? No, I think going to the hospital is hard. I agree with you. So forget this other stuff. You can learn that. You have the toughness. And a lot of people used to talk about all of us that we have the soft leadership skills. That used to drive me nuts. So I ran this company. We were bought by private equity. I had a board. And they thought, Mike, you're the best at the soft leadership skills. You're great at leading people, motivating, the rah-rah things. But I was like, no, I can do the tough stuff too. It's not that they didn't see that. It's just that when they think of all of us, they think of the soft leadership skills, the kind things. But takes grit and toughness to do what we do. And I think if Corona did something, is the world started to see that about us. So I think this is why I think this book, for me, the timing's so good, because I think the world now sees that we can do more than just being a helper. You know what I mean? Like, or you're a great person to talk to, but you also can do more. And I think everyone now is starting to see that we have a lot more power than they used to see us as.
I love that there's so many clinical pearls with what you said, and I love the knowing, like, what have we went through in our life and overcome.
Yeah.
Like, I use this I'm going to call it a strategy for behavioral change, right? With a lot of people that I work with, where I hear, I don't know, it's so hard. What if I can't do this? And
Yeah.
bringing it back to all of the things that they have accomplished. So whether somebody is a health professional, a lot of the people that come to see me are nurses or other healthcare practitioners, because a lot of times, like you mentioned, going through the job can be difficult. So we know
Hmm.
that how somebody manages stress is very important. And back in the day, with that difficult boss, and for 2 years, I stayed in that situation, and I ended up having a lot of health issues. And I'm not blaming it I'm not blaming it on that boss, but it contributes to health, right?
It does.
When we're in a state of panic or stress or perceived threat, whether it's real or perceived. And I remember at that time, I was so like distraught, and it was like inwardly bringing me down and putting me back in the past with the things I've experienced in my childhood, I really couldn't see like the good. Like I was going to just give up like healthcare. Like I
Hmm.
had that go through my mind. Like, why am I doing this? So I really had to like dig into myself and then start looking at, well, look at all the things I've been through in my life. Nursing school, for sure, but everything. Like, it doesn't have to be education that
Right.
somebody has, but just things that they have overcome, triumphs, and everybody has them. But we don't focus on those. I feel like we focus on the things we don't think we can do. So
Yeah.
back to that, the sustain talk, that like we don't, there's too many obstacles. Like yesterday, one of the lovely individuals that sees me, she said the mountain is like, it's too big. There's too many things. There's job. There's this. There's that. There's the spouse. There's like so many things and that you look at it and you're looking at it and you're like, it's impossible. Versus, let's reroute our brains for a minute and let's talk about what have you overcome, what challenges have you overcome,
Exactly.
and what do you want. Like, I love talking about the concept of a wellness vision. I'm pretty sure you've probably heard that term with all of the experiences that you've went through, but thinking
Hmm.
about like what a well you is and allowing the space for that. So
Yeah.
whether that's a well you because you have a disease, because you have stress in your life, because you are at a job that you hate, because you want something different, but whatever it is, to visualize what you want and see it.
Yeah.
Like you said, imposter syndrome. Everybody experiences that, and fake it till you make it. It sounds like that doesn't sound right, but it is, right? Because
Hmm.
it isn't fake it till you make it. So you're not digging in and with this, learning the skills and putting the work in. But if you wait to start something until you're like, you believe you're the expert and every single thing falls into place, are you ever going to start?
Right. Yeah, and you were talking about crisis theory before. And what's crisis theory now? That saying is, hey, what do you do when you're in hell? You keep going, move forward, right, one step at a time. So that one person that was telling you that with that mountain they had to climb, and sometimes it's good to acknowledge to that person is, you're right. If you add all those up, that is insurmountable for you and I. How about one step at a time? Let's take one of those and let's go through it. And I think there's a lot of power in all those things that we have to do. Again, like what I love about seeing your podcast is you do look at the whole person, and before you try to help them to get to their wellness, you want to understand who they are first. And that's what you and I are doing right now. So this is what's really cool is we're getting to know each other. So if you were to lead me or I was to lead you, we at the end of this conversation, we would know the person we're walking into and who they are and what they may need, or what their strengths are, weaknesses, and we could probably talk them all through. And that's what is missing these days, where people are taking the time to do that and to just truly listen, feel, empathize with them, and then get them into action. That's the one thing, the only thing I've ever found that works for me when I am in a crisis and I just stop and I feel stressed, is to get back into action. Just do something. Do something to address any of the little things. Maybe for me, like exercise is huge. I exercise about 2 hours a day, and everyone's like, "Oh, do you do it like because you can you can eat carbs if you do it, all that stuff?" And I'm like, "Sure, there's some value to weight loss or things like that, but I do it for my mental health. Exercise is 100% just grounds me." So it really is, all these factors play into everything, and it all makes us to who we are. And we have to, again, when you're going to lead somebody or work with someone, you got to understand every aspect of it and help them get into action, whatever that action may be. Just don't sit stagnant. That is only going to make it as bad as it is, or worse, to do nothing. Do something.
That's again very well said. And we can get into this pre-contemplation stage, right? Like we know that there's something that we want to do. We want to change a role. We want to start a business, whatever it is. We want to go back to school, but we have all of these thoughts. these limiting beliefs that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough. Like, I think
Yeah.
it's absolutely I hate that word, but normal to have those feelings because we're human, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what can we do one foot in front of the other to start moving in that direction? So that's what you're definitely speaking my language. So when I talk to somebody about, let's make the space for it. And do you believe it? Like, do you believe your body is capable of healing?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very powerful question. And usually I'm left with somebody looking at me for a few seconds and not saying anything. And sometimes I'll hear maybe, and sometimes I hear no. And that's very, to me, I'll get teary eyed thinking about it because that was me for
Mm-hmm.
some time in my life, back with that one boss feeling stuck. You know,
Yeah.
I had plenty of credentials. I could have worked anywhere, but I was so like, I was stuck in that mindset of this is all I deserve. Like, I feel like that was what I was thinking. And for 2 years, I experienced that. But then with some of the things that I went through, and being told I can't outrun my poor genetics, and I'm getting all these diseases, and thinking like my life is over, and actually having specialists tell me that it's like they didn't use the word hopeless. They said there's nothing to do. We're just going to wait for your body to destroy itself. I'm like,
Mm.
I'm turning 50 this year. So this was a while ago. I'm like, who wants to wait for that? Like,
No.
so is there nothing I could do? So I believe without a shadow of a doubt, people can heal, that we can always improve, whether it's our health, it's our state of mind, it's the skills that we have, whatever it is, we can improve. But we have to first, this has to come into play. I always say this and this because they
Yeah.
have to be in alignment. It's like yesterday I said to somebody, try saying with a big smile on your face, I am so depressed. It feels off, doesn't it?
Right.
Or if
Right.
somebody like is really upset, and they're like, this is the best day ever. Like, the brain is like, wait a second, like, it's not in alignment. So I believe, and some of the things I say, sometimes I feel like it's really out there. And maybe years ago I would have thought that girl's crazy, but now I know, I believe it to be true. And I've lived it and I see it every day, right? That we have to, if we don't believe, what are we going to do so that we will believe?
Yeah.
Especially if it's something that we want, right? I was
Yeah.
made to feel most of my life. I think you said this for you also, that I wasn't smart enough. My sister
Right.
was like a physicist. I was like, using the other side of my brain, theater and art. And when I wanted to go and become a nurse, the first thought I had, I wanted to do it because of what the experiences I saw with my family, and it really moved me. And I said,
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do it because I know I'm not smart enough, but I'm going to do that because I want to have that impact with somebody else's journey, especially with what I saw with my grandfather. He had lung cancer and he loved
Mm.
going to his treatment. He loved it because Judy worked
Mm.
there and he loved
Yeah.
her. And
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, like, in the midst of everything he was going through, that he found peace with the people there. And I wanted that. And so I had to get to work, right? I had to, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, I feel like I struggled so much in the beginning because of overcoming those beliefs that I had. What if it doesn't work? What if I
Yeah.
fail? And
Yeah.
I love the concept of, when I actually recently just really started diving into this, that failure only happens when you stop trying.
Right.
That what is going to limit you from achieving whatever it is you want, whether it's better health, a better job, more money, because money matters. It does. What is going, what do you need? You need to believe it. So, like, putting one foot in front of the other. What about, like you said, the unsurmountable mountain, and somebody needs to just focus on one thing? Do you have any, like, strategies for somebody, like, they're like, I think I want to take this step, whatever that is. They want to improve their health. They want to go for a different job. They want to start a business, but they have that, voice in their mind saying, you're not good enough. Like, do you
Yeah.
have any like practical strategies for somebody to put that one foot in front of the other?
Yeah, I mean, you said something a lot of powerful stuff there, but one thing that was really powerful was about the health, and that, do you feel your body can heal? I have, um, a few years ago, severe arthritis issues where at night I was almost in tears trying to get out of bed to go to the bathroom. And as an active guy and stuff like that, I thought this was the rest of my life. And I accepted that. I'm like, okay, I'm in my mid 50s now, but I guess it was early 50s. I was like, maybe this is what happens. And I was miserable about it. And oh my, I could barely get up. And then in the morning, I had to use the rail to go down the stairs, or I used to run up and down the stairs. And I just started to accept that as my reality. And I, and I was quietly miserable about it. I wasn't saying it out loud, but there was a little depression that it came from it. So, and I wasn't a person that really went to the doctor much. So I started reading, doing things to have less inflammation. So changing how I eat a little bit and what things cause inflammation, started looking things on my own, then started to go to the medical professionals. And I saw somebody who told me I had psoriatic arthritis. I also had some of the psoriasis, and I've now taken medicine. I feel like me again. I feel great. It's just an incredible thing. But I thought I was done physically. I thought that was it. And I did feel good when I would get on the elliptical. So that was my only like physical joy, like it would stretch some things out. But I think if you, again, with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I don't know that I would have tried other things if I didn't get myself right physically. So I just think, doing something, even if you're scared. I don't know. For me, I was scared to go to a doctor. I don't know why. Like just going into the room and telling them maybe it felt like a sign of weakness. Again, to go back to those issues, like I have to admit, I'm not walking good. Like, do I really want to say that out loud? So I think there's so many lessons there of don't give up. Don't accept a negative, like let's go look back with you with that boss. I don't wish that upon you. I wish you didn't go through it. But now that you did, it seems like you've taken it as a learning lesson of a few things. A, if you led somebody or how you now are a practitioner, I guarantee it's affected you because you're not going to be the way this person was with you. So in a way, you've reframed this to a gift in a way. It sort of changed your life. You got out of that situation. It took you too long, which sometimes isn't awful. That one old job I had, I waited too long, but now I look at it as now that I got through it, you have to look at everything as a gift of what have I learned from it. So it sounds like you've just learned so much from that terrible situation. It affected you physically, it affected your confidence level, but now how you talk and treat the people are affected by it. How you now will be as a leader. When we talk about understanding the people, you got to know how to be a follower before you're a leader. You followed this person. So now if you led, you would never do that. You're not going to do that to somebody else because you experienced it and it's ingrained in your mind. So I think we have to do those is just keep moving forward and also take those really negative experiences and reframe it. What can I learn from it and how can I be a better person from it? So you're not now why can you tell this story? Because you're not as angry about it anymore. It maybe parts of you are, but you've taken it as a stepping stone to a new chapter of your life. You didn't let it hold you back. It sounds like to me.
No, and actually, this might sound insane. I'm grateful for it.
Exactly.
And honestly, I feel, I don't know if I would use the word grateful yet for everything that happened to me with my health, because it was very, very hard. And I spent months of my life, which there's people that spend years of their life like that. So
Yeah.
I'm not comparing myself to anybody else, but it was a very dark time for me. And it brought up everything with my family. Cause again, my parents died so young and I didn't think I had a future. But now when I look back, I needed to go through that. That was the
Hmm.
path because it changed my life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in functional medicine if that didn't happen. I went into it looking for how to survive, like raising my hand, like what's the what's the magic that I need, the magical supplement, the pill, like what do I do? I didn't get answers, okay? Because I got an understanding of the body. And it took a while for me to realize that for every single person, it will not be the same. just like diseases start for different reasons for different
Yeah.
people, the mindset of I'm not good enough, or the fear, like being stuck in that fear mindset for change, that there's a reason. There's a reason why. So, like, you going back to your childhood and thinking about that, and me working through the things that I went through in my life, like, why am I staying with this horrific boss and subjecting myself to this every day? I cared about what I was doing. I
Hmm.
cared about the message, and my work. My work really mattered. It was everything to me. And
Yeah.
then just looking at it, like, what can I learn from this, like you said, and yeah, how not to be, and why is that, right? Because people like real. They like real. So
Yeah.
I am very transparent with the people I work with. So if I'm talking about changing a diet, because not a diet, but for nutrients, to bring more nutrients in, I let people know I am far from perfect. There is no
Yeah.
such thing as perfection. And if I eat a meal, or I had something and I'm like, yeah, now I have joint pain everywhere, like, I knew going into it, with me, like, I'm dairy free 364 days a year, and I don't feel good with it. I know that. I haven't made the decision yet. It's just it's not in alignment with me right now to go completely dairy free. And maybe it's something I should do, maybe it isn't. But
Yeah.
I know that if I have something and I have that pain, I understand why. And when I tell somebody that I'm working with this, and I had recommended that they go dairy free, and they look at me and they say it means everything to them, that I'm letting them know I'm not perfect. Because
Yeah.
what about the moments for them? Like, so I believe in space for us to achieve what it is that we want, but also, like, compassion and empathy for ourselves. And what
Yeah.
can we learn from the experience? Like everything that you went through with your life and your career led to where you are now, and starting this business, and writing this book, right? If you didn't have those experiences, you wouldn't be you.
Yeah. Right. You embrace these things, right? And use them as life lessons to learn and to grow from. And one thing I love about you is when you talk about with your patients, you're very real and direct. And what's a greater way to show care than to be real and direct? A lot of times that method has been looked at as a weakness. I don't know where this happened. If somebody tells the truth, or they're like you said, they're transparent. They what the mind to the brain to the mouth, and it comes out, and it's how you really feel, and it comes with care. Where did this become a bad thing? It really means you care. Like, if you sugarcoat something, I don't think that you really care, or you respect the other person enough. Like, if I'm going to give you a message and I'm going to sugarcoat and make it sound great, that's a lack of respect for you. Meaning, I don't think you can handle the truth. To go to A Few Good Men and Jack Nicholson. So to think somebody can handle the truth is the greatest gift you can give them. And I think that's what's lost in leadership too. Is maybe we've gone a little bit to the other side of I can't offend anybody. Of course, I don't want to offend anyone, and I don't think I do. But I also want you to know how I truly feel, so we can have a real relationship. And I want to know how you truly feel. When you're leading someone and they'll just say to you what you want, like, "Yeah, Mike, I agree with you. That's a great idea." When you think it's a stupid idea, just because I'm your boss, technically, we're going to go nowhere. So I really do love, like, it seems like you're really transparent and real, and you let people process it. Like, okay, this is what not having dairy can do for you. And hey, you mess up and you had a whole gallon of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and you're not going to get mad at them about it. You're going to say, well, how do you feel today? I feel terrible. Okay, well, like, you can then assess it. Or I feel amazing, so maybe having dairy is okay for you. But whatever it may be, is if you care enough to tell someone the truth, what a gift.
Well, and
I
I
think.
thank you. And I also tell people, because it's like, well, what should I eat and what shouldn't I eat? I could eat an apple and it could be potentially bad for me, because I'm
Right.
sitting there in a rotten mood, really stressed out, totally in the sympathetic nervous system, going through the list of things that I'm not good at. And I'm eating this apple and it's causing my gut to become leakier. And then my immune system is reacting. right? Because our immune system is designed to protect us, and we're
Right.
designed to survive and thrive. And the immune system, in my opinion, it should be celebrated, because it has an amazing job for us. And I was scared of my immune system for a while with all of these autoimmune, like, diagnosed diseases and antibodies to just about everything I went looking for. I found antibodies against, and thinking, wow, I need to be in a bubble. But now I see, no, it's my body was in a state of like crisis. It was in such a threatened state that how wonderful that my immune system was doing everything in its power that it believed to protect me. So then thinking about the components of health, and with whatever it is, whether it's autoimmunity, cancer, just like our cells in our body doing something it shouldn't be doing, right?
Right.
That what we feel, what we believe, like, if I eat the dairy, going, I love dairy. I
Yeah.
do. I love it. I miss it, right? But
Yeah.
if I eat the dairy and I'm having it in a moment with loved ones, and I'm not having shame, I'm not
Right.
shaming myself. I'm not like, I'm so weak, I can't believe I'm having this. But it's just like, I made the decision. I went into it and I said, is this the one day that I'm going to have it? And
Hmm.
I don't, this of course could be wrong. Everybody's got their own opinions, but I don't believe it, I don't know if I would want to go down a road if I believed it had to always be that exact way. Like,
Right.
there is no leeway. And if you mess up, you failed. I don't want to go there. Who would, right?
Right.
Versus, I really want to optimize my health, and learning the different skills, the tools that can assist with that, learning your own body and getting to know it. So doing a check-in. How do I feel? Am I having pain? Do I have a headache? What's my emotional state like? Do I want this? And then if I have it, knowing I might have a symptom, and feeling okay with that. Because again, I could eat salads and the best food in the world, but if my mindset is negative, I'm not going to get the nutrients necessary from that meal anyway. So
Right.
this like, we have to, and what we're saying, what we're shoving into our mouth, what we're thinking, it all matters. Like,
Yeah.
everything is connected. And so often we separate everything out, right? Like,
Yeah.
you said, with the stuff that you've learned also, and thinking about root cause, and thinking about, like, I think about our mental conditions all the time, our mental state. Like, where are we at? A check-in with ourselves. I do this every day with
Hmm.
myself. As far as I've come on my journey, I am definitely not perfect. So if I have those moments where I'm feeling nervous, and not just like to come, not to downplay it,
Right.
but not just to come on here, but just, like, am I going to be able to do what I think I can do? Can I actually help somebody? Am I going to succeed? Am I going to fail? To do a
Hmm.
check with myself, like, how am I sleeping? And am I drinking enough water? And what have I been eating? And am I present? Which is a big one for me, because I
Yeah.
feel like I've lived most of my life like waiting for later. And it can make me sad. Like, if I wanted it to, it could make me sad to think about that, because I feel like I
Yeah.
missed out on a lot of experiences, especially with my parents and growing up, because I just was waiting for the next, like, something else. I was waiting for later. And it's very important to me to be present and to work on that. I haven't mastered that yet, but I work on it all the time. And starting my own business was terrifying. Like, do I
Yeah.
have the skills necessary for this? What do I know about a business? I don't know anything, right? And then digging in, and thinking, well, one step in front of the other, like you said, where,
Yeah.
okay, what do I do? We live in an amazing world, right? Not just our bodies are amazing, and I believe we can heal, but there's so much information out there that we have at our
Yeah.
fingertips. Now,
Yeah.
not all of it is right, but there's a lot of wonderful information out there. or if people utilize things like such as your book or professionals, coaches, things like that to help them to bring them to mentor them down the road that they want to go, and like looking fear in the face, or some people say punching fear in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was great because, like, when you talk about being present, that's so important. And we're obviously present to say, like, let me start this business. And that's what my whole book is you had the passion and the desire to do it. You didn't know all the business stuff, but you taught yourself. That's what I'm trying to say here is that kind of stuff. You can get QuickBooks. Someone's like, oh my God, how do I manage my bills? Like you said, the world's an amazing place. There's a product or a system to do all those things that scare us half to death. Um, and what's really neat is, and what doesn't happen enough is, if you look at your podcast on paper, the functional nurse with will this make sense with a guy who's writing a book on leadership and the helping professions? They're sort of tied together. Maybe they're not, but they totally are, because if your health isn't good, if you're not feeling right, if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't do anything. Forget leading, forget helping people. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned is being on a plane. And when the oxygen comes flying out, when I was young and wanted to be a social worker, I thought what I should do is run around and put the oxygen on everyone. But what do they say? And you're a nurse, you probably would too, is they're like, put the oxygen on you first, so you're breathing, then run around and help everyone. What a great lesson. If we are not present, but let me get there. I can't help one person. If I start trying to put it on someone and I keel over, I'm useless. But if I put the oxygen on me first, take care of myself, take care of my body, take care of my physical and mental well-being, then maybe I can run around and put it on 20 other people. And I think that being understanding how all these things play in, the whole person, when you lead, is exactly, that's when I loved when I just, your little bio before you even watch your first podcast says that, I think I've mentioned this a few times because I love it so much, is you don't just exactly the chart. I hear it when I'm sitting the doctor, and I love some of my doctors. You'll hear the bang because they pull the chart down. 2 seconds later, hey Mike, how's it going? They probably forgot my name, which just makes sense. They have a million patients, but they are judging what they're going to say and do on a few things I put on that. And we all rush to do that form, like while you're sitting there. How much is your pain, high to low? So,
If
like,
it's filled out at
if
all,
it's
back
filled out
when
at
I was
all.
it wasn't filled out, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, so it sounds like if I'm going to see you, that's meaningless. You're going to throw that paper out and say, talk to me. And as a leader, that's what I want to do, is talk to me. I want to know you. I want to know who your kids are. I want to know who your family is. I want to know who your spouse is. So when you are struggling, we can have a real talk about it. And it doesn't feel fake. If I see you sitting there crying and I'm like, oh, how's life? And I've never said a word to you, you're not going to want to talk to me. But if we spend time, you'll be like, yeah, remember when I was telling you about my one kid, like I was so scared about, they went to college. They're sitting on a Friday night in their dorm room alone, crying, and I'm devastated. I get that because we've talked about it, and I have a kid, and I might be worried about that too. So it's that whole person. It's such an important part of leadership, whether it's health or running a business.
I love how you tied that together, Michael, so nicely with a bow, and it's got the ribbons on it and everything. Like, why did she bring this guy on the podcast and he wrote this book? Well, how is it related to health? It's absolutely related, because we need to take care of ourselves, right? Like a leader, if they don't take care of themselves, and this is for everybody, because we're all leaders. We're our own leaders.
Yeah.
Like, we're the leaders in our life, and why that matters, because it does. It absolutely matters. The way that we wake up and face the day. Are we going to rise to the challenges of the day, or do we want to just crawl back in bed and put the covers over our head?
Yeah.
Whether it's for a job or our situation, whatever it is, I feel like it is absolutely relatable for everybody, because our psyche, our mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, everything interacts, everything is connected. And it will drive things. And I am always looking at, obviously, the body, right? And because it's what I do. But also, I'm very, very into behavior, because we can know what we need to do. Like, somebody has high blood pressure and they're eating a bunch of ultra processed foods, and maybe they're smoking. Just throwing this out there. I don't know this person. And, so, well, I guess I should quit smoking and I should quit eating all this garbage. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But are you connected to that? do you believe your body can heal? Do you believe that you will be able to do it? And
Yeah.
what do you need to do it? Those are, I mean, I feel like, you tell me if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, that those are leadership skills with yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
this guy did this presentation and it's so brilliant. And at first I was like, wow, that seems pretty simple. He goes, the most important thing, this is his presentation, that you can do every day is make your bed. And he goes, just hear me out. You get
I
up,
love that.
get up, make your bed. It's a small win. You and I talked about that. You've done something. You accomplished something today. You also made the decision to not hide under the covers and to wake up and face the day. Get up. The first thing everyone should do is make their bed, have a win, face the world, not hide, and get out there and just go live. And he said, if you start the day with that, it's amazing what strong decisions you'll make, mind, body, and soul.
I love that. I'm definitely a fix my bed as soon as I get out of it. And then
See,
I use what Mel Robbins said. I love her. I high five myself in the mirror,
that's
because I
great.
used to get up and nervous and am I good enough? Am I this enough? Am I that enough? Like, my hair doesn't look good, or this isn't good. And we can get in these ruts, and it's
Oh
human,
yeah,
right? But then what small wins am I going to get? Absolutely the bed. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I fix my bed every day, even if I'm sick, which thank goodness I don't get sick very often. But I fix my bed right away because I want that win. I want to like look and it's organized, high five myself, and then, what am I doing today? Like, what am I going to, achieve?
hmm
Achieve might not be the right word, but like, what else am I gonna win at? Like, facing that, whether it's having a smile on my face and feeling positive. Like, I being present is very important to me, but also I know we can't necessarily control the thoughts that pop into our head, but we do absolutely have some level of control over what we do with them.
yeah,
And we're all at a different place on our journey with ourselves, and that could be easier or more difficult depending on the situation. And of course, like, depending on the situation we're in, not just where we are in life. But if I think about what it is that I want for my life for that day and breaking it into bite size, like, if I think about, oh my goodness, I have all of these things I have to do by next week, I'm going to be overwhelmed. And I
yeah,
tell people that I work with that I get overwhelmed by things. If I think about all of the things I have to get done, because we all have a list. And I challenge people, how many times do you check everything off on that list?
yeah. Rarely.
Probably hardly ever.
hmm
So can we put some things on that list for you? Like, you're the most important person in your life. I tell everybody that, and I tell myself that every day. And it's not selfish, it's necessary that
Right.
if you're the most important person in your life, so how are you lifting yourself up? And if it starts with our beliefs and our things, the thoughts, the things we say about ourselves, and keeping them congruent with like what our beliefs are, and working towards that vision, I believe anything is possible.
Agreed. Yeah, that's absolutely great. And if we don't put ourselves first, we can't help others or be there and enjoy life. Like again, you have to maximize your health, maximize your mental health. These things are all vital to being the best you can be, and you have to do these things. And that's where again, when we talk about writing a book, I would love to see your book because I think you're looking at medicine the way it was looked at maybe in the 50s, where a doctor would show up with a little bag and spend time with you and go from doing house calls. And it seems like you're doing house calls again. You're bringing that back instead of just the 5 minutes with somebody. So if you write a book, then I got to do a podcast and interview you.
It's I haven't started it yet, but the
You
thoughts are
should.
the
You
thoughts are
should.
in my mind, because I like the concept of inspiring people, and
Yeah,
we all have something that we can inspire somebody else with.
absolutely.
A challenge that we've overcome. Those are the things I like to hear. And like, recently hearing people talk about put a win in the chat, like, or
Yeah.
put a win. Raise your hand. What's a win? What's your win for the day? Because nobody's talking about that.
Yeah.
We're all talking about all the things we can't do. I got to
Yeah.
do this. I got to do that. I didn't do this, or I'm sick of this. But what's a win? And when I first heard that, I was excited, but then it's just, it's part of me. I got nervous. I hope my win is good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well, you
thought
know
about it,
what?
but then I'm
Yeah.
like, it's my win. It's of course it's good enough.
Well, and you're talking about the wins. One thing I got out of this today is when we both talked about and shared it is, when I do this podcast, say I was nervous walking in. What I want to take from today is instead of being nervous, is to embrace it because I've had so much fun with you talking today. And if I walked in with that mindset of how much fun it was going to be, that would have taken away some of the nerves. Not that the nerves are bad, as we learn, it helps. But why not embrace that this could be a great, fun experience and it's going to be enjoyable and you're going to learn something and have a great time and a great discussion. So sometimes it's good to just take yourself out of it too and say, wow, like maybe I can try to do that a little bit more, be half nervous and half be excited about, this could be a really cool opportunity where I'm going to get really something out of it at the same time. So I always try to find something to learn, and I think you being honest to say that you were helped me to say that I was back to you, and that maybe I can try to embrace things. I do. So even going to a party, I never say anything dumb at a party, but every time as I'm driving there, I'm like, oh my God, am I going to stand there alone? Am I going to have no one to talk to? And it usually always goes great, but I never think of how it's going to go great when I'm driving there.
But,
You know what I
but
mean?
I love that you brought that up because that's so true, right? Like me too, coming onto this like nervous, but not thinking, wow, what a great conversation this is going to be. Just
Yeah.
it's those ideas and those thoughts, that imposter syndrome, that what if I screw up? What if this doesn't go right? Instead of what
Yeah.
about the possibilities?
Exactly.
Right? I
Yeah.
want to spend more time with possibilities. You've
Yeah.
inspired me. Like I need to step it up.
Vice versa. No, it was great. Yeah, great experience though.
Michael, I have absolutely loved this conversation.
Me too.
For the listeners out there, are there any clinical pearls that we haven't talked about? Anything that you feel the listeners would really benefit from?
I just want people to not be afraid to take a chance. The worst thing is if you're sitting there right now and you want to become a leader, you want to lead your organization, if you take a chance and try and somebody says no, you're in no different position than you're in right now. Is take a shot. Just go to somebody in an organization that you feel is open, likes to listen, and throw out there like, I'd love to learn more about the organization. I want to come in more. I want to learn from you. Like, who doesn't love to hear that? Especially when it's sincere. You seem like somebody who's done so many great things. I'd love to spend more time with you to learn. Take those chances. Try, if there's an opportunity to go to a party or stay at home, go to the party. If there's an opportunity, if there's an event where you can meet other professionals and you're scared to go to it, a cocktail hour by yourself, go to it. Maybe who can you maybe meet? Is network, take a chance, try things. Don't let that fear hold you back. You and I discussed our fears today, but it didn't hold us back. You've done 80 some odd podcasts. I wrote the book. So we were scared, we were afraid, but we didn't let it hold us back. So embrace that fear, use it to motivate, but take a shot because I think the world needs more of us as leaders right now. You mentioned politics before, and we didn't really get into it. Without getting into it, I think people in the helping professions can, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, I love people who you can hear both sides. Not just my side is right, you are wrong. I find that we need more leaders like that. And I think the helping people could say, I'm this party, you're that party, but what I want to talk to you because you probably have something to share with me. And, that's different. I'm not going to get mad that we think differently. I'm going to embrace it and say what I can learn from it. So I think if more helping people were even in politics, it would be better because we know how to listen. We listen to both sides of the aisle, try to compromise. Some of these things are not just missing politically, they're missing business wise too. So I just think more of us are needed in higher positions. And I want us to take a shot to be in those higher positions.
Well, I hope the listener realizes the value of what you just shared. And the great thing is they can rewind and then write it down because I'm going to. Especially I don't remember I can't quote you on it because I wasn't writing it down, but those were great. I don't want to use the word lines because That doesn't sound right. But like for looking to get a different position, like something you said something along the lines of, so I will be, well, this is my podcast, so I'm going to be able to listen to it whenever I want. Um, I want to learn from you. Like that's like that is not only is that like a brilliant strategy for approaching a situation like that, but it's I hope it's true,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Right.
why, because what can we learn from somebody? And if we value that individual, we shouldn't let fear stop us. And I think so much of the time we live in that perpetual state of fear, and we don't see the possibility, we don't see the win, and we approach it like, I'm going to have to, like, what do you think about if I could be a leader, could I do this? Like, I'm doing up talk on purpose, like to go into that situation and do that versus, what could I learn? What do I want to learn from this individual? And going in with that mindset, like
Mhm.
going on to the show today and thinking this is going to be such a fun conversation. I am going to work on being more present and leaving the chance for possibilities. At least I haven't let it stop me. Not yet.
Exactly. Which
But
is great.
I want the possibilities,
Exactly.
because just like when we allow room for our health, we allow the space for us to become well.
Hmm.
If we have the possibility for what we can achieve, if we put it out there and look for how it would be profound for all parties involved versus what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't do this? What if it doesn't happen? Then we have allowed for the possibility, and we've put it out there like that. Manifest it. I very into that, because there's it if we believe it, if we put it into motion here and
Yeah.
here, then it radiates. I don't see auras, not yet, probably never, but I can almost feel it off
Yeah.
of another person. Like I feel like I can feel it off of you. Like it's radiating the possibilities. And you're so passionate about what you do and about spreading the word. And it's because you want more individuals in a leadership role with the experience of health professionals. That's my understanding of
Hit
what you're talking
100%.
of what you're
100%.
talking about. Thank
Exactly.
you. Thank you so much. I loved this conversation. How can everybody find you? What's the best way?
Well, I have my book. I have a website, michaelkaufman.com, and then you can get the book. It was published by Roman and Littlefield. I wanted to use a publisher and not self-publish, so it gave a little bit more of that credibility. And Roman and Littlefield is an academic publishing company, so I would love to use it to teach like a graduate school course at Rutgers. So you could find Roman and Littlefield. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, if you're interested in the book. And I'll be out there doing, like they could see, watching this podcast and others. And, just if you want to read the book, that would be great if people are interested in it. So I'd appreciate that.
Well, they should definitely read the book. I have the book. I haven't finished the book yet, but I am absolutely finishing the book.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Pick up a copy. I'm going to link all of that below. And
Thanks.
again, Michael, this has been a wonderful conversation.
I loved it. Had a great time.